Everybody, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools DIY channel. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. Man, it's almost June, halfway into 2024. It's almost over already. Can you believe that? Time flies. So I hope you're making a good use of your time. Yeah, guys. So I figured I'll talk about an interesting topic today, at least for me. Uh, in the manufacturing space because I am in the manufacturing space myself, being that I have a product, an actual tool that Calibrate has put out there. Uh, I'd say about 2 3 years back. So I try to keep up on what's going on in that sector as well to find out what's happening because it's interesting. All right, tool companies struggling. I don't know if you know, guys, but a lot of companies, period, in general, not just in the tool business, but in general are having a hard time. There's various reasons for that, but since this is a tool channel, we're going to focus on tool companies. I'm not going to talk about all tool companies, but I will highlight a couple of them that I did the research on and find out what's going on. Doesn't really tell you all the details, but you kind of can surmise or figure out, hey, what's happening here? Higher labor costs. You used to have things produced in China where there was lower labor costs. Now you probably restored manufacturing here back in the States, so it's higher labor costs, and now you got to raise the prices. People don't have the money to spend on tools at a higher price, and next thing you know, you're going out of business, right? Another thing a lot of people don't think about either is innovation, right? You think about cars, you think about, okay, the next version of this car, is going to be this. Like you look at somebody like Tesla, for instance, right? Tesla has this big box looking vehicle. I don't keep them on cars like that, but they're always innovating to some degree in the car world, right? And not just the car world, but that's something that most people are familiar with. And believe it or not, in the tool space, the same principle applies. If you don't innovate as a tool company, guess what? You're going to get swallowed up because it's almost like a race to put the next thing out, the next best thing out. And a lot of these tool companies, they have their niche, right? Some are known for battery power, amp hours, like Milwaukee. Uh, for the, I don't know, Ryobi, for instance, a lot of people talk down about Ryobi, but they know what their niche is. They don't care which, they're still making money. They're still out there, and they're making it happen for themselves in their own lane, right? You got DeWalt, you got Rigid, you got all these other tool companies out there that are more or less known for something, and they're out there and still out there because obviously they're doing something right. But not everybody's doing well. Not everybody's doing well. So let's look at a couple of companies that are having issues in that area. Um, let's dive right into it. Hopefully I set you guys up. Hopefully that was a good setup. And if you're into this stuff, follow along. If not, I get it. I totally get it. I totally understand. Vaughn. Anybody familiar with Vaughn? I bought a couple of their hammers. I don't know, a couple of years ago. They got some pretty good hammers. They're known for striking tools, hammers and things like that. And apparently they're closing their U.S. factory. Why are they closing their U.S. factory? I want to know. I want to know. So let's see. Vaughn, known for their USA made hammers and other striking tools, has been in the business or has been in the news recently with reports of a pending closure. Let's dive a little deeper. It says this company is 150 years old. Imagine you built a company, you started out 150 years ago, and now you got to shut it down. The legacy has come to an end. Okay. It says it announced it will be closing its doors on an unannounced date. Um, let's see. I'm trying to dive into the details here. I think it said it was bought out or something like that. So there are a lot of questions. Is Vaughn closing? Uh, hmm. Yeah. Well, you know what? Forgive me for this. I don't know if this is an accurate reporting here, but it said it was bought out, or at least it was going to be bought out by a company called Marshalltown. And with like $5 million. Imagine building a tool company, 150-year-old tool company, and you got to sell it for $5 million. So, that's not good. But this other company called Marshalltown was going to offer the $5 million, and something happened where the deal fell through. Okay, I think Marshalltown shorted them, said, okay, we're not going to give you $5 million. We're going to give you something else. So they may have backed out of the deal. So when you're in that position where you gotta, you're selling your company probably like for pennies on the dollar, more or less, and you got companies like vultures, like this Marshalltown company, come and say, kind of dangle the carrot in front of you, and then come back and say, no, we'll give it to you for this much, which is much less than what you thought you were going to get. You're not doing pretty good. So why is USA Manufacturing doing so bad? I mean, what's happening here? Like I said, higher labor costs, right? Higher labor costs over here, and good quality, but you got to compete with China. Let's be real. You got to compete with China, and they talk about mass producing things at a much lower price, and that's what a lot of these companies are struggling with. Okay. And so if they haven't built a good brand, you're going to get swallowed up. So it's all about building a brand strong enough to withstand the economic warfare that's happening out there on a global scale. And a lot of these companies can't keep up, right? Even 150-year-old companies. Yeah, because the American consumer, their wallets are not as heavy as it used to be, right? So that's going to reflect. And if you got overhead, you got factories and all this stuff, you got to pay for that stuff. You got to pay the bills. Okay. So sometimes it turns out where you just can't hack it anymore. So you either got to sell it to somebody to save your, what, or, just let it crumble. So let's look at another company here. Okay, Stanley Black & Decker is closing a facility in South Carolina. Everybody should know who Stanley Black & Decker is. I grew up with Black & Decker tools. Okay, I think there used to be separate companies. Stanley was one, and Black & Decker was a separate company, and they joined forces at some point. But they're talking about closing facilities as well. I don't know if all their facilities, but definitely one of the main ones. Is closing its facilities in Fort Mill, South Carolina, with 192 jobs being affected. Just 192 employees at that one facility. Interesting. Let's see. Let's dive a little deeper into this one. As part of Stanley Black & Decker's business transformation strategy launched in 2022, and in an effort to optimize its footprint and better serve customers, it's funny how they use this, this language to kind of, make it sound good that they're laying off 192 people. The company, the company in 2023 announced changes to its manufacturing and distribution network. This included U.S. site expansions, site transformations into manufacturing centers of excellence, and site consolidation. Yeah, all the flowery words, meaning that just saying that you're shutting down. You got to let people go. Okay. It's not yet clear whether this is the same location as the DeWalt assembly and distribution facility. This author saying that they toured 9 years ago. So it may have been the same facility that these two companies, DeWalt and Stanley Black & Decker, used. Maybe the same building. So yeah, and it doesn't go too deep into as to why these, but come on, you can figure it out, right? Like I said, you can't, the labor costs, a lot of these companies don't want to pay, right? They don't want to pay the workers, what, the American worker, I should say. And they're suffering for it, right? They're hoarding all the money. They don't want to pay them. They probably want to pay them like they would pay a worker in a foreign country, closer to it, right? So, it's making it hard for them. These big brands that you grew up with are crumbling, because of that. They're not adapting to the times. You know, the American consumer slash worker, they're not having that anymore. So um, they're paying the price. Okay, let's go to the chat and see if anybody's there. Nobody's there yet. Um, so yeah, you know, this is what's happening out there, and you know, let's not forget we just had COVID, we just had the pandemic, and you know the supply chains have been ruptured because of that, and you know that's causing higher costs as well. You know, when it comes to these American companies, you know, these Western companies, and so um, if your inventory can't be quickly restocked, stuff like that, because of these, you know, these hurdles in the supply chain, that is causing a lot of companies to fold as well. Okay, so you got higher labor costs, you got you know, competing on price, which is a race to the bottom. You know, and then I always, just like I talked about in many times on my lives, you got labor shortages as well. All right, and it doesn't help that America, and this, I'm not getting into politics, but you can see why some people, right, when it comes to the business, the corporate world, would vote a certain way, right, in a certain direction, because there's a lot of regulation over here in the U.S. when it comes to these companies having to survive, right? Because that's the business. All um, these regulatory requirements that the government puts on these businesses, that costs a lot of money, and the government, you know, the government is actually reaping the benefits of that as well. So that's putting an extra burden on these companies, and they don't necessarily have the backing of the government, like say a China or something like that, where it's all about government, right? So you got you got different sets of challenges for companies over here in the States or in the West that other countries don't have, that make it more competitive, uh, or you know, for or better to have your products made overseas. Okay, so you got regulatory issues, you got you know, people competing on cost, um, and then you know you got the online space as well. A lot of these companies haven't really built out their online platforms, you know, in order to compete as well. A lot of companies in every industry have fell by the wayside for not jumping on the online train and building out that platform. Okay, because a lot of times it's a lot cheaper too. It's a lot less overhead. Um, so yeah, it's a combination of things. Okay, touched on the politics, you know, who you're connected to keep, you know, keep your costs down, um, all that stuff's in the mix. Okay, so yeah, um, don't be surprised if you hear more companies taking a dive or selling or being gobbled up, you know what I mean, by some other company that has their stuff together. But that's just business. That's just capitalism, and that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Parago Lightno says operating overhead is taking out the small businesses. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, overhead is one of the biggest killers. You know, if you don't have the capital to keep your business afloat, no matter how good your product or service is, if, your overhead can take you out. Simple and plain. And that's why a lot of people there, you know, say, man, always be looking for the money, right? Always be looking for the money, because you're not going to know what's going to happen, you know, 6 months down the road. Nobody predicted COVID would happen or the pandemic would happen. Nobody had their inventory stocked up to the brim to survive that storm that was the pandemic. And you know, certain unpredictable things happen that, you know, can take a lot of people out, and or companies. And so you always got to think ahead. And I think COVID, the pandemic, taught a lot of companies, uh, you know, things that, you know, they should have known, but like I said, they didn't. But now they're operating on a whole new level now. I'm sure a lot of companies are stocking up like they never stocked, you know, like never before. And just doing things a little differently. So, but like I said, some things you just don't know. You just got to go through it and learn and try to survive it as best you can. And sometimes it's best for these companies to sell, because they know they're going down. It's better to salvage something or come out of it with something than nothing, right? And so that's what you see. So yeah, good comment there, Prager Life Notes. Overhead, So if you start a business, you gotta think about your overhead, And a lot of these companies today, like I said, because of the pandemic, they found that having employees work from home is much cheaper, and smart move. So you can come out actually better after some of these trials and tribulations that's happened in the last 3 years or so. And but I don't want to throw this word out to really point fingers, but a lot of times some of these companies are greedy. They don't want to pay their employees what they're worth. They want to hoard all the money. So when they find that they have people not wanting to work for them, or they have a bad reputation out there, that's going to affect the product quality. And next thing you know, things are going to start crumbling as well. So you got to think about what kind of mindset do you want to, if you're going to start a business, and you envision having a big company or something like that. You can't have that without people. So people come first, right? You got to treat them right, and then they'll treat you right, right? So yeah, like I said, guys, this is general business stuff. This is capitalism 101. But I just thought I'd touch on it because it's related to what I do on the channel, and I'm a tool guy. So yeah, stuff is happening out there in the world. Anyway, guys, if you don't have any more questions or comments on this, thanks for listening. I appreciate you coming through, and catch you in the replay. And feel free to leave some comments on it. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but I do have an interest in it, and I try to make connections and see what we can learn from all of this stuff. So, hey Sharon, how you doing? Thanks for coming through. Sharon Moulton, the real estate maven right there. Matter of fact, Sharon, I'm going to bring Sharon on the channel to keep us up to date about what's happening in the world of real estate, and opportunities that are out there. I think Sharon, she's just started her her own company, and I'll let her tell us more about that when I bring her on. Okay, so I appreciate you guys coming through, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys.